Donald Trump is in panic mode. His speeches are getting more boring, if you could believe that. Low energy crowds, smaller venues. Trump's top aides are saying all he's doing is playing golf and yelling at them all day. This as Vice President Kamala Harris continues to surge ahead in the polls, but she's really doing a great job is building this movement in a pro-democracy way with a pro-democracy community. We'll break it all down. Now, the GOP MAGA needs to strike back, so they come up with the fact that Governor Walz is actually cheating on his dog Scout with another puppy at the dog park. We'll discuss whatever the heck the GOP is talking about. They go, his dog really isn't Scout. He's with another dog. That's what they were talking about today. Also, what Donald Trump was talking about today, to debate or not to debate. That is the thing that Donald Trump whines about every single day as he calls George Stephanopoulos Slopodopoulos because Donald Trump is a petulant 3-year-old. No offense to petulant 3-year-olds. Donald Trump continues to say, I'm not going to debate. I'm going to debate. I'm not going to debate. It's all unfair. Aren't we tired of this, America? Can we please just have adults in leadership positions? That would be fantastic. Also, Trump was endorsed by someone who he and his campaign previously referred to as a rabid communist, RFK Jr., and Donald Trump described him as a Democratic plan. Trump said he would rather vote for President Biden over RFK Jr. because he says RFK Jr. would destroy the country quicker, but that's their guy now, and now they are promoting a new line, Make America Healthy Again, by banning all vaccine requirements from schools. We'll break that. And yeah, I wouldn't really want to get my health advice from those guys right there on screen, but I would want to get my legal advice from special counsel Jack Smith. He filed an appeal before the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals of Judge Eileen Cannon's dismissal of the criminal case against Donald Trump involving Trump's theft of nuclear secrets. Here are the words that special counsel Jack Smith used in the appeal brief of Judge Eileen Cannon's reasoning. Nonsensical, lacks merit, erroneous, overlook key issues, strained reading, no support in text, context, history, or common sense, misguided, fundamentally mischaracterizing the law, attaching undue weight to the law. We'll break that down. Also, Trump's stock breaking down. While our stock market has reached record highs, which Donald Trump claims is somehow because of him, Trump's stock, which has his name on it, seems to be crashing. So how does that work if you're taking credit for the stock market that's doing well, but your stock that has your name on it that's doing bad? I don't know. It seems like a very Trumpy thing to say. Also, let's get into that Midas Touch expose that showed that CNN panel of so-called undecided voters from Pennsylvania, which was broadcast after Vice President Kamala Harris's speech at the DNC. We showed that it had someone who was a longtime Trump supporter on it, who admits that he was a Trump supporter. He said he told CNN he was a Trump supporter. He said he told CNN that he and the friend that he was with at this restaurant or bar when CNN approached him, that they were both planning on voting for Donald Trump. But CNN said, come on the undecided panel anyway, keep an open mind. And CNN then responded to the Midas Touch report, and CNN says they're fine with it. This is how they operate. They're okay not disclosing it to the public, and presumably they will do it again. They don't see an issue in this at all. And they said, yeah, he told us that he was a Trump supporter. We'll talk about all of this here on the Midas Touch podcast. I'm here with Brett. I'm here at a transitional location right now. We will be changing studios. You may have seen me in a different location. That's going to be the main studio where you saw those morning videos. Problem, folks, I probably should have checked that the new studio location has working Wi-Fi because that was a big issue. So I went back to another location, and that's where I am right now. So apologies. I need to get that new location sorted with Wi-Fi. Brett, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Yeah, then, having an internet connection, probably up there, at least top 3 on the priority list if you're doing a live streamed podcast. And it's funny, I see all the people, commenting in the chat right now. Where's Ben? Where's Ben? Everybody very much takes notice of your location and where you are, but it's good to be here with you. We missed Jordy, who was away on business last week. Feels like Jordy has not been on the show. And I want to say, I don't want folks to get mad at me and Ben. It's not our fault. Jordy is unfortunately under the weather. He was working a little too hard last week. But once he recovers, I know he will be back, and Jordy sends his love to the Midas Mighty. Ben, we got some pretty big stories to cover today. Where shall we begin?
We should begin with everybody calling my cable provider and asking them to please make sure my Wi-Fi works. You don't understand. When I called them today, I said, look, please promise me this is not a long-term thing. I said, my whole life is dependent on this Wi-Fi. So they were talking to me about this node being down and that node being down. I'm just saying, please make sure this Wi-Fi works, because there's going to have to be some major life audibles being called if that's going to be a constant situation. Well, let's talk about the audible that Donald Trump pulls each and every day. As I said at the outset, a great transition to debate or not to debate. That is what Donald Trump whines about every night. And my whole view of it is, dude, shut up. It's like either sit for the debate or don't sit for the debate. But stop the whining. Oh, am I going to debate? Am I not going to debate? Should I debate George Slopadopoulous? George Slopadopoulous? It's like, okay, man, like grow up. And you could either show up to the debate that was previously scheduled on September 10th, or don't show up, frankly, and Vice President Kamala Harris will show up and she'll speak directly to the American people. We don't need the gaslighting that you're doing a Fox debate on September 4th or 5th that never existed, that you made up with Sean Hannity. That's going to be some weirdo town hall that you've done 10 times already, where Hannity's like, so can you tell the world how funny you are? When do we get to see Melania next? I mean, the stupid question.
You know what's funny about those town halls, though? Trump gets those softball questions from Hannity, and Ben's not even exaggerating. Like, those were the questions. But it's those town halls where he also manages to veer off script. Like, I think he said the dictator in a day comment in one of those town halls. Like, he somehow manages to take a softball and just completely whiff every single time. And I think we're seeing the more he kind of gets out there, he's panicking, obviously. The polls are against him right now. And never get complacent with the polls. I want to say that and make that clear to everybody. But you could tell that it's affecting Donald Trump. He values those polls very much. And so he's now embarking on this sort of weird swing state tour. He's not doing really these big venues anymore. Maybe here or there he'll go in front of a bunch of people. But he's doing these weird kind of smaller events that are very low energy. They're very weird. They're very deranged and unhinged. And he just rambling about Kamala Harris and just like strange stuff. And he's not doing what you actually do or what you're supposed to do when you go into swing states to try to win over voters. He's just doing the same rambling that he always does. Now it's from this defensive posture. And this just like weird, depressing, like the guy looks like depressed out there when you see these clips. It's very strange.
Hannity will say to Donald Trump things like, you're a very sarcastic guy. You didn't mean when you said you want to be a dictator on day one. That's just, you're being funny. And Trump goes, no, I want to be a dictator on day. I want to be a dictator on day one. And then Hannity's like, okay, but you don't really like these dictators. No, I love them. Kim Jong-un, Vladimir Putin. Putin really respected us when I was there. Kim Jong-un really respected. That's actually how those things go. Anyway, Brett, speaking of these low energy events, today he was in Detroit. He always has like a theme that's announced, whether it's like, we're going to talk about the economy, we're going to talk about immigration, but then he never talks about that. He always ends up talking about just like Vice President Kamala Harris. So he'll go, Kamala, whatever her name is, Kamala, I'm better looking than her, right? I say I'm better looking. And it's like, okay, again, like what? I don't even know what is it that you're doing.
And then the press goes, Donald Trump went to Detroit to deliver an economic message to the voters. We're like, but did he? But did he? Or is that just what he said it was going to be about?
I like words. I like big words. I'm sophisticated. I'm highly educated. I like big words. Big words. Here, play this clip.
These people are just so destructive. So, I always look for good words. Highly sophisticated. I'm highly educated. I like sophisticated words, but there's only one word I can't. Stupid. They're stupid people.
Just imagine if a coworker or a boss or someone talked like that. You start a meeting. Everybody, I'm really smart. I like words. Big words. I'm really smart. The other company, they're stupid. I mean, again, who behaves just at a basic level? Who behaves this way? Donald Trump. Here, Donald Trump says if there is a debate, because he's now posting that he may not show up to the debate. Here, play this clip.
They flew. That stops all of their. I shouldn't say this because if there's a debate, it would be nice to surprise you with that one.
And apparently in the speech, Brett, I think it was supposed to talk about the economy. I'm not really sure what the theme was. But anyway, Donald Trump appeared to be very angry that the Ukrainian army was making advances in Russia and that the Ukrainian army is doing well now. That really seemed to bother him. And that was one of his messages that he wanted to share in Detroit. So they went from Mr. Gorbachev, tear down that wall, to Donald Trump saying, look what's going on there. They're making too many advances against Russia. Russia's losing. I don't like this. Here, play this clip.
Look at what's going on right now with Ukraine. They're surging into Russia. Okay? You're going to end up in World War III, and it's going to be a bad one.
Okay. As you say, Brett, his heart's just not in it. And then he's been obsessively talking about former President Obama and former First Lady Michelle Obama, talking about him at the Democratic National Convention. And it's really gotten under Donald Trump's skin. So here Donald Trump is in Glendale, Arizona. And again, he always emphasizes former President Obama's middle name. And he goes, Hussein. Here, play this clip.
No, they get bored. Like Barack Hussein Obama got far fewer votes the second time, and he won. Have you heard of him, Barack Hussein Obama? Remember Rush Limbaugh? Barack Hussein Obama. He was nasty to me. He was nasty. Michelle was nasty. They're all nasty. Nasty people. They were very I was surprised. I thought he was, and I was sort of nice to him. I said, no, I like him. Good. It didn't matter. They were nasty to me. And
then Donald Trump kicks a veteran police officer off the stage during that speech because that veteran police officer was talking longer than Donald Trump wanted, because Trump wanted it just to be about him whining to the crowd. Here, play this clip.
Flowing into this country at an alarming rate, with only 5% being intercepted at the border. Okay. You got it. Folks, let me finish up here, please.
Yeah, and then Donald Trump says that if he were to be elected, he said his message is joy, and that his campaign is all about joy. And he also said earlier today, too, we're not going to play that clip, but he goes, it's about democracy. We need to bring democracy back. And then he said he's going to fill the country with joy that has been taken away. Here, watch this.
everyone will prosper, every family will thrive, and every day will be filled with joy and opportunity and hope. But for that to happen, we must defeat Kamala Harris.
His moves, though, are so predictable. He literally will just steal exactly what the other side is saying and then repeat it so that he knows how to play the media, right? They know, well, Donald Trump's talking about joy, right? Ignore the rest of the speech. He used the word joy. And then you saw that New York Times guest essay today. Donald Trump can win on his character. Did you see that one, Brett? He can win on character. And so they attacked Vice President Kamala Harris's detailed economic plan, them and others, right? And go, oh, it's not detailed enough. And they go, well, Donald Trump, he can win on character. And sometimes I feel when you and I like go after the media, I'm like, do I sound like, I don't want to sound like a conspiratorial, like they're trying to do this, but like there's Occam's razor, like there's no other explanation. Like when we talk later in the show about CNN's response to having a Trump supporter on an undecided panel, the way they responded to me is really the story, because it's like, wait a minute, that's what you do? How many times have you done that before? Is that how you do all of your polls? Is that how you do all of your panels? Is that how you arrange and craft and architect these narratives? And again, you and I talk about it a lot, though, Brett, because we're like, do we sound like we're just whining about corporate media? And does the audience think like, oh, there they go again, talking about the media side?
Because here's the reality. Like, I really want them to do a good job. Like, and we can talk about this later. Like, I want them to crush it. I want them to do an amazing job. I want them to hold people accountable. I want people to be able to get the facts and know that they are getting the actual facts and the actual thing. But time and time again, we are seeing this just bizarre distortion of reality. And these aren't like black and white. These aren't gray areas. These are black and white issues that we're dealing with. Like if somebody says, I know I'm getting started early here, but if somebody says, if you asked, do you know who you're voting for this November? And they say, I am voting for Donald Trump. You probably shouldn't use that person on your panel of undecided voters. Your response should not be, but if you were on TV, would you consider keeping an open mind, perhaps? Okay, I'll be on TV. That's not how these panels should work. And I just do not understand that level of journalistic malpractice. And at a certain point, you start wondering, is this a mistake? Is this just like something was overlooked here? Or is it intentional? And you have to, at some point, think it must be intentional. It has to be intentional.
I couldn't agree more with you. We'll talk about that towards the end of the show as well. I'll show you this clip as well, though, where Donald Trump, this is in Las Vegas, and this is where he's speaking at a business which he previously described, you're a big business, but we call you a small business for tax purposes, wink, wink. He actually said that in his speech. Here's Donald Trump, though, in Vegas. I think he was supposed to talk about the economy. Again, I don't know what the point of the speech was, but he starts talking about the way Vice President Kamala Harris looks and that no one's ever heard of her before. Here, play this clip.
The other side, Kamala. Have you ever heard of her, Kamala? Nobody ever heard of her before.
And it just like say her name correctly. It's not that like he intentionally says the name incorrectly, and then he goes, I'm going to say her name incorrectly. It's Kamala. Just say the name correctly, right? Also, Donald Trump previously supported rules that said that the companies, that the bosses can take the tips of their workers. Like that was, we have to remember, this is the point, Brett, too. So when Donald Trump says no tax on tips, and the media just repeats it, there's actually a track record, right? When Donald Trump was disgracing the White House, his labor secretary put forward a rule that said the bosses can take away, can strip, can steal the tips of the workers. That was their rule. A Democrat then had to introduce in an omnibus bill a provision that stopped that from happening. So we actually know what Donald Trump did there. He'll say anything. He'll go anywhere. It doesn't matter. When we talk about the RFK endorsement, Trump can call the guy a communist, say the guy's going to destroy America. And by the way, RFK can say that about Donald Trump because they're charlatans. They are liars. Quite literally, everything they do is basically a lie. And they realize that the corporate media is just going to put it out there and really not fact check them or get so overwhelmed with all of the info that it's just like, well, hey, he's bad. She's got issues. Whoa, what's going on here? No, just do your job. And methodically, let's talk about these things. Trump wanted bosses to steal the tips. Trump wanted the bosses to steal the tips of service workers. That was actually what his policy was. And now Donald Trump wants to use the no tax on tips as a way that corporations can claim that their income is tips. Just classify it as tips, and then you won't have to pay taxes on it. That's what he's going to do. He has a history of screwing over workers, and he's not a good business person. He's not a builder. He's a destroyer. He's destroyed everything he's basically touched. He's bankrupted all of these companies that he started in the past or lent his name to. Why is he out there selling weird assassination edition sneakers? Why is he selling Bibles right now? Like none of this other than on the Midas Touch Network and some other independent media. No one talks about this stuff. It's weird. He's out there selling sticky Bibles. Someone running for the presidency selling $60 sticky Bibles, selling assassination edition sneakers. And I don't know if you caught this today. There was a bipartisan congressional delegation that actually went to Butler, Pennsylvania to take a look at the site of where the shooting took place. And I think it was three of the, Republicans or four of the Republicans on that panel, including Clay Higgins, who was out there spreading all of the conspiracies, too busy to even show up in Butler, Pennsylvania. All of the Democrats took their jobs seriously, despite the fact that Donald Trump is out there selling assassination edition sneakers. The Democrats are there in Butler, Pennsylvania, and three or four of the Republicans, including Clay Higgins, who are spreading conspiracies that this was an inside job, they don't even show up. Just the same way that J.D. Vance doesn't show up to vote for protecting IVF, just as the same way as J.D. Vance doesn't show up to vote about tax credits for children. It's just over and over again. You see this hypocrisy. We're going to call it out. We've got a lot more show. We're going to take our first ad break right now. I want to remind everybody about growmidas.com. That's one of the ways you can, sometimes people say, hey, I love patreon.com/Midas Touch, but I want to become just a recurring donor. I don't want anything in return, or I want to just give a big one-time donation, and I just want to give a lot of the money, a big contribution, and then, and I want to be anonymous. growmidas.com could be helpful for you there. Patreon.com/Midas Touch. You get after shows and a lot of special features there. And then store.midastouch.com, the pro-democracy gear is selling out like crazy. Check that out as well. 100% union made, 100% made in the U.S. You see some of the great gear right there. I'm amped up. I'm fired up, even though I'm in this undisclosed location in a kitchen. We're going to make that Wi-Fi work at the new location. We'll be right back after our first quick break of the show.
I've been trying to lead a heart-healthy lifestyle, but finding the energy to keep up with healthy changes like getting my steps in, it's been an uphill battle. We often think living a more heart-healthy life means making big, unsustainable changes. Well, with SuperBeets Heart Chews, you can get daily blood pressure support in just 2 tasty chews a day. And they even promote heart-healthy energy without the stimulants. Paired with a healthy lifestyle, the antioxidants in SuperBeets are clinically shown to be nearly 2 times more effective at promoting normal blood pressure than a healthy lifestyle alone. My energy levels are higher than ever. Now, without typical dips from coffee and energy drinks,
Okay,
it's
guys, let's see what else is in here.
Thanks, Midas Mighty. Let's use our power well.
Oh yeah, we're gonna look at
The
this.
time has come to create a Space National Guard as the primary combat reserve of the U.S. Space Force. Very
Putin
good.
destroying Trump.
Very
Just
good.
supporting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
So as president, I
Hey, you
will
told me
sign
about
historic
Kamala.
legislation creating a Space National Guard until I spoke to somebody that's a great guy, very much a fan of yours, Marco Rubio. I said, what do you think? He said, I love this. I love it. I love it. So we're going to do that. Space Force has been very important, very, very important. When I did that, the other people came in, they wanted to end it, and they were just hammered because people realized how important we were getting just destroyed in space. And now we're leading. We are leading with all of the major metrics in space.
Well, there you have it. Trump out here promising the thing that exactly nobody asked for, a Space National Guard. No plan for jobs or lowering prices or reducing inflation or cutting healthcare costs, but a Space National Guard, you better believe it. It's like putting a 9-year-old into an adult's body and asking him what he thinks the most important priorities are for the presidency. Ah, yes, well, that would be the National Guard, but in space. No notes, Donald. No notes. Meanwhile, Trump's audience cheers for it because they'll cheer for anything, and yet these are the same people who turn around and rail against government waste and tax spending. Does anybody want to tell them who's going to pay for this apparently very important new cost? Here's a quick hint. It's them. I wonder if they'd be so quick to applaud beefing up Trump's vanity wing of the U.S. military if they knew they would be the ones funding it. Although apparently it's very necessary because Trump notes that we were getting destroyed in space and now we're leading on all the major metrics in space. Can anybody tell me what that means? How are we getting hammered in space and how are we not getting hammered anymore? And what major metrics are we leading in now? Space GDP? Space unemployment? Space jobs? Space crime? Please, somebody make it make sense. And let's be clear, this was actually the most
Okay, I want to watch Luke. He's doing a great.
More covered for us last week. Now, this is a completely whacked group of people that went to this event, and I'm going to play some clips of Luke speaking to them in a moment. But one of the things that many of you have emailed me about is, David, I'm worried about Luke, many of you said.
Yeah, I'm worried about Luke as well.
Is he safe at these events? And at this event, for the first time that I'm aware of, people started shouting insults and threats to Luke as it became clear that he was asking completely respectful, but certainly adversarial questions as he conducted his interviews. We're going to get to that, and we've got to talk about Luke's safety in a bit. We're going to first start with, we will call him guy number one. Let's just get right into it. I present these without any introduction. This is pretty wacky stuff. Buckle up.
I know what the truth is, and I believe everything that happened in January 6th is going to be revealed, every bit of it.
And
Now we know what happened on January 6th.
I don't know exactly what you're referring to. So what would you say that is? What occurred on January 6th?
I'm talking about Nancy Pelosi, what she instigated, and the information she's got will be found on her laptop, and that will be eventually it will be revealed to the American people.
It's not just Hunter's laptop now. It's Nancy Pelosi's, as he says.
So Nancy Pelosi instigated January 6th.
I believe she did.
What would be the purpose of them coordinating this?
Great question.
What's the end game there?
The end game is to get Trump out so he doesn't win the presidency.
Of course, Trump is out.
The 2020 election, I believe, was stolen. I think the majority of the people here believe that. 2022 was stolen. They did it again.
So let me pose this to you. If their goal was to get Trump out of office, and the certification was what was going on during January 6th, meaning they were doing the process to get Trump out of office, right? Certifying Biden's win, then causing January 6th would be the opposite of what they want. Because
Absolutely perfect question. Why would they interrupt the process to remove Trump if what they want to do is remove Trump?
Interfere with the certification, right?
I didn't get that last part.
The actions of January 6th actually interfered with the certification. So doesn't it kind of not make sense that the Democrats would have instigated January 6th if that got in the way of the certification, which they wanted, because that was going to cause Biden to become president?
I just believe that
I am not artificially extending this silence, folks, just so you know.
I don't know.
He doesn't know. He doesn't know. Presented with a simple question, he doesn't know. Still speaking to guy number one here, Trump is really in control, he says, but if bad things happen, those aren't Trump's fault. What?
And I believe God is in charge of the whole thing. He's got everybody in the place that he wants them at. He put Trump in there in 2016, and I actually believe that Trump is president right now.
Whoa, really?
I do. And he's in control through the military.
Is this mental illness?
The military has more power over the federal government and the state government. Military law.
How would you describe kind of as,
they know what happened.
As an observer?
They know what happened during the election. I believe they have proof of it.
Okay.
And that will be revealed.
And right now, how would you describe the state of America?
It's not good.
Not good.
This is a brilliant setup question by Luke, by the way. He's really getting good at this.
It's not good.
And so because Trump's in control, would you blame him for that?
No.
No.
Why not?
Well, because I think things are getting better.
Think of that, folks. Trump's really in charge right now. Oh, and how are things going? Terribly. So since Trump's in charge, is that his fault? No. Why not? Because things are getting better. Absolutely brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. We then go to lady number one. Let's see what she had to say to Luke.
Here, besides Trump, what do you want to hear from him? Or what did you before it got closed off?
I've heard everything I've wanted from him. I want him to take down all the people who are in place right now.
Right.
Gotcha. So this is a super simple question, but somehow I do get different answers to it. Who's the president right now?
Time will tell.
Time will tell. Okay.
She can't tell you who is president, but time will tell us.
It will come out. We're not going to know, but I know. And God knows.
Okay.
God knows and the woman knows who is president, but we're not going to know. That's very, very interesting. Now, then we go to guy number two. Guy number two proposes a different idea altogether about what took place on January 6th.
So you brought up January 6th in the within the context of Nancy Pelosi, her son. What do you think? Because I've heard a number of different takes on this. If not the official narrative that we all saw, meaning Trump supporters angry about the statements Trump was making attacking the Capitol. What do you think happened? What was Nancy Pelosi coordinating or something?
Right.
Well, I've definitely investigated the situation. I was there. there were buses that came in, and all one has to do is take pictures of those tags on those buses, go to those bus companies, and track who paid for them.
You were there where?
At James 6.
In the Capitol?
I was not on the lawn. The day before, when Enrique, a member of the Proud Boys, was busted in the airport with...
He's talking about Enrique Tarrio.
Plastic magazines that they retailed to try to make money for their cause. I knew that the mayor and something was going on. So,
take a quick pause.
The FBI hasn't knocked on my door yet, but I was smart enough to turn around and get back.
Yeah, he wasn't going to be picked up as a patsy, that's for sure. So we're sticking with this guy. And he also seems to stumble upon this idea that someone else is in charge. He believes it's Barack Obama.
I believe the military is in charge right now.
Oh, this is one I've heard before. So if the military is in control, do you mean they're running everything? Biden isn't?
We know Biden's not. Biden's definitely not running anything. I believe President Obama is actually calling shots right now, and everything that I've researched is pointing toward that.
Do you understand the amount of research this man has done? And all of it points to Obama is in charge.
But who's going to sit back and watch all this happen? Mike Lindell proved beyond a reasonable doubt that enough cheating went on in that election that it would have changed the outcome.
Yeah. Obviously, many would say he didn't, but to move on from that, speaking of Mike...
Obviously, the facts don't point to that at all.
Lindell, he's predicted multiple times that by this date, Trump will take back over as president. The military will bring him in. Does it not make you go, oh, wait, maybe the claims he's been making about other things are also lies because he lied about this, or
Right.
he at least falsely predicted something about this?
I don't believe Mike Lindell's got a bad bone in his body. He is a true Christian. I ministered for years.
This guy also, not only did he research and found that it's Obama who's in charge, he also was a minister and knows that Mike Lindell is really an amazing Christian. Okay, now we go to guy number 3. Here we start with who is the president.
And sounds like a simple question, but I get different answers to it. Who's the president right now?
Definitely not Joe Biden.
Interesting. And who is then?
Well, I want to say it's a movie. If you think about it.
Gonna need elaboration on that.
Yeah. Who's president? Not Biden. Who is president? Well, it's a movie.
There's way too much things going on behind the scenes to even look at what's going on in the mainstream TVs. You understand? You get that?
All right, and then
I would be like, no, I don't get that, dude.
Diving into that, what's going on behind the scenes?
It's hard to even fathom what end of the
This guy clearly he knows we're not getting the truth, but he doesn't know what the truth is.
There's a good way to put that word for you. The amount of pedophilia that's in this system is insane.
It's just jammed up.
Are you kind of just hearing that makes me think of, you know where I'm going? QAnon?
I do. Yeah.
No.
I understand the Q thing, and there's a lot of speculation there, but I follow Q. And
it may not shock you guys. This is a QAnon.
Do your own research. Right. Just don't hear speculation.
The funny thing about do your own research is these people all claim to be doing their own research, and they come away with crazy ideas. Like, for example, Trump's president, or Obama's president, or Nancy Pelosi's laptop holds the key, or whatever research they're doing doesn't seem to be getting them any closer to sanity.
You can pull up your own information, and it's crystal clear.
Do you know Mike Lindell?
Yes.
And do you like
I love
him?
the man to death, but I'm so sick of seeing his commercials.
Oh, right. So one of the things, he's a good example to me of this phenomenon that I see a lot in what would be called conspiracy theorist circles, is making a bold prediction. Trump's going to become president by this period of time. It doesn't happen. And then I get confused because the followers don't stop trusting him. Mike Lindell has predicted just around the corner Trump's going to be by this August, whatever, then this, and that hasn't happened. Or,
I agree.
and why doesn't that cause you not to support them and think, oh, maybe what they're selling me is dishonest?
Great question.
Things have they have channels they have to go through, and things have to happen in certain way to happen.
even if it takes 50 years.
So, all right, I'm sorry. On the spot.
Yeah, I got you.
All right. So anyway, this guy loses his train of thought and it only goes downhill from there. Then we get to guy number 4, and here the threats start from off camera.
Good criticism of any system throughout this country is necessary. I don't think suppressing any type of criticism, wrong or right, is.
Just 1 second. I'm gonna get to you next. Just try not to be too loud.
So now there's someone hurling abuse at Luke, and then it gets worse.
I have an opinion. All right.
Sorry about that.
It's not you.
Yeah.
Oh God. This is exactly the stuff we were all worried about, right? And so this is something we're going to have to talk about because this gets much worse. And as you can see, people looking around now, looking over what's going on here.
Okay. That's it. Oh, I thought you were talking about with our election processes. With our, you got to come interview if you're going to be making all that noise. I want to hear from you.
No, hey.
Now other people start coming over saying, whoa, dude, you got to calm down. And I understand Luke's doing a really good job here, but this is when you're trying to focus in and do an interview and there's someone so close screaming stuff this loudly at you, it is not comfortable.
See, this is the problem. No, it's okay, guys. Love, positivity.
It's right. Hey guys, it's right. It's right. It's right. It's right.
Now, in the defense of some of these folks, some of these Trump people are actually telling this guy, "Hey, you got to lay off."
That's right.
Listen, we're all Americans here, and we love see. This is the problem. This is the problem.
I'm with you.
Like,
So let's get
I wish people like you and me could sit and have these discussions.
That's why I'm here.
Without
Totally
things like
agree.
this happening.
100%.
Like you're still taking someone else's word for it. You're still believing into someone saying, "Hey, trust me." See, and this is the biggest problem now. We need to have discussions like this, but there's always going to be like a subset of the population that's going to.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah. So Luke visibly flustered there. We then speak to a guy who believes that there's demonic oppression and Trump is really president. The guy's also wearing a Star of David. Again, just remember, folks, most American Jews are very liberal. Most American Jews do not believe in demonic possession. Most American Jews do not believe Trump is really the president.
All right. What brought you here? What are you hoping to see and hear?
I'm hoping to see the president of the United States, Donald Trump. And I came here because this country is in such bondage, in such demonic oppression. We are heading towards communism.
It's in bondage and it's been afflicted by sadomasochism as well.
We need people to be praying for this.
Hold on, I talked over. Let's just go back a second.
We are heading towards communism. We need people to be praying for this country, to be praying for the president, Donald Trump, and to pray for people's eyes to be opened to the truth of where our country's heading, because communism is a very real thing.
It's real. There is no communism in the United States.
Marxism is a very, very real thing.
Yeah,
we have Marxists running our country.
Who?
We have babies being killed after they're born.
No.
We have all of these. They're trying to take away our First Amendment. They're trying to take away our Second Amendment.
No.
They're trying to destroy our Constitution.
Pause. Let's do it one bit at a time. So you started off by saying President of the United States. Is that kind of because we love him or because you genuinely believe he's still the president?
Both.
Okay. Then speaking to a guy with a Let's Go Brandon FJB sweater, and check out the word salad this guy delivers when Luke asks about the classified documents double standard.
What's your response to the Biden classified documents scandal?
Yeah.
It's just hypocritical, man. The way they responded to Trump's and then not so much scandal to his on the media just really shows the power between the two parties. But I think this does play a lot better into Trump's favor because they've really quieted down more on his media side ever since that happened.
Yeah. So I have heard a lot of the complaints from the right kind of being double standard. The DOJ is too aggressive with Trump, they rate him. But wouldn't you agree there's very different facts of the situation? Trump withholding the documents, whereas Biden gave them up immediately?
Yeah, it's just really just honestly a personal standpoint at that point. Kind of shows the
This is where it goes off the rails. What is this guy talking about?
The person that Trump is versus the kind of person that Biden is, to where Trump's going to stand for his word and what he believes is what's going to be his way, while Biden is just going to play towards the system, which he's basically bought into, and just kind of leaning towards that side of it.
But if it would be illegal to have those documents, then is it a positive to stick to his
I don't know.
principles
At
and
that
keep them?
point, you're already guilty for what you're having. Like, I'm not going to deny that part of it. But yeah, at that point, I was like, man.
Incredible. I mean, sometimes I really do get the impression the people who are sometimes weighing in on this stuff have never actually thought through their opinion until the microphone's in front of their face. And they would be much better off just saying, hey, you know what? I haven't really thought about that. I should think about that before I give you an opinion. But the mic is there and the camera turns on and they'll weigh in on whatever. Really good job by Luke. You can find Luke Beasley's channel. Go to davidpakman.com/Luke. And we are going to have a conversation about Luke's safety at these events, because this one started to get quite ugly. And it's something we're going to talk about. All right. All of these clips, find them on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/The David Pakman Show. We will have these on TikToks and TikTok. We will have them on Instagram, Facebook, everywhere. Excellent job by Luke. We'll take a quick break and be right back. Let's talk about plastic. 100 billion plastic bags are used and thrown away each year. Huge contributor to plastic waste.
1929 crash, if she gets in. You saw a gentleman yesterday who got up, one of the top analysts in the world, frankly, and said that if Trump isn't elected, he predicts, and he's predicting you have a stock market crash.
I mean, guys, the stock ticker is literally on the bottom of the screen. Fox is showing a record high stock market while Biden and Kamala are in office, as Trump warns about the supposed danger of Kamala being in office. This is how stupid he thinks his audience is. Trump may claim that the Democrats are the enemy as far as his voters are concerned, but no one shows more contempt for Republican voters than Republican politicians. And if you really want to see Donald Trump phoning it in, here's one of his greatest hits.
I'll take immediate action to restore our depleted military. You know, we don't have any ammunition again. Do you remember when I first came in? They said, sir. So I had, and you will say it, I had ammunition. We had so much it was coming out of our gills, right? I had ammunition. Oh, I said, what the hell do we do with all this ammunition? We had so much. And now we don't have ammunition again. We gave it all away to different groups, but mostly into Ukraine.
Sir, the general said, and they had tears in their eyes. Grown men with muscles bulging out of their sleeves. Sir, they said, sir, we need bullets. Biden is sending us into war, but there are no bullets in our guns. Sir, we need you back, sir. On the scale from 1 to literally never happened, where do you think that this story by Trump lands? And then, of course, what would be a Trump rally without a little hostility toward the U.S. Constitution?
I want to get a law passed. Everyone tells me, oh, sir, it's very hard. You burn an American flag, you go to jail for 1 year. Got to do it. We got to do it. They say it's not constitutional. They say, sir, that's unconstitutional. We'll make it constitutional. We're going to make it constitutional. But you burn an American flag, you go to jail for 1 year. That was terrible. What happened at the convention in Chicago? They're burning American flags all over the place, and the fake news doesn't want to show it.
These people will beat their chests all day about the Constitution and free speech, except when it's a part of the Constitution or free speech they don't like. Republicans have simply exposed themselves as being hostile to every part of democracy that doesn't directly comport with their own beliefs. These people don't want freedom, they want conformity. They claim to want to protect Americans against communist regimes like that in China, and yet they seek to exert the exact same amount of control over Americans as the CCP exerts over the Chinese. The GOP is out here throwing stones from the most fragile glass house you've ever seen. In the meantime, it would probably benefit Donald Trump to tamp down his already light campaign schedule, considering he clearly doesn't have the energy or the stamina to command the crowd's attention. And while that might have flown when he was running against Joe Biden, it's not going to fly when your opponent is Kamala Harris, and her crowds look like this.
Welcome to Oracle Eyes. In the span of 2 weeks, Ukrainian military forces have successfully taken control of around 1,500 square kilometers of territory in the Kursk area of Russia. This includes the capture of dozens of small settlements. This is the first invasion of Russian territory since the end of World War II. This week, Ukrainian forces made a sudden change in the course of the conflict by sending an additional 15,000 elite troops to the Kursk region to support the 10,000 troops that were already stationed there. As a result of this strategic decision, the total number of Ukrainian forces stationed in Kursk has increased to 25,000. This amount represents a major and unprecedented surge that has taken the Kremlin and the Russian military command by surprise. How can Russia, which is already weakened by internal instability and military turmoils, react with this mounting crisis as Ukrainian forces continue their continuous attack, successfully capturing important territory and breaking through Russian fortifications? Are we witnessing the beginnings of a fundamental shift in the balance of power, or will the Kremlin continue to demonstrate its ability to maintain control? Let's take a look at the most recent information regarding the raid of Kursk that was carried out by Ukrainian forces, which included 25,000 elite troops. Based on the current situation in the Kursk Oblast, it is clear that the Russian army is in a state of disarray, and the Kremlin's military efforts are not producing the desired results. About 3,000 Russian soldiers have turned themselves in to the Ukrainian army. Over 1,000 Russian soldiers are thought to have been killed in the conflict. Photos and videos of Russian soldiers surrendering while carrying white flags were published by users of social media platforms and sources within the military. Putin's comments regarding the attack on Kursk by Ukraine have been quite limited. On the other hand, Zelensky just made a critically important trip to the front lines of the conflict. Zelensky made a significant trip to the Sumy region in the northeastern part of the country. This was his first trip since he began an audacious onslaught across the border more than 8 days ago. According to a report that Zelensky published on the social media site X, Ukrainian forces had not only taken control of another hamlet in the Kursk region of Russia, but they had also brought numerous Russian servicemen into custody. The replenishment of the exchange fund for the purpose of possible prisoner swaps was what Zelensky referred to as the event. After receiving a briefing from Colonel General Oleksandr Syrsky, one of the most senior military commanders, Zelensky made the following statement. Another settlement in the Kursk region is now under Ukrainian control, and they have replenished the exchange fund. Furthermore, Zelensky went to the location of the most recent Ukrainian incursion against Russia, but he did not cross the border. This is something that Moscow would most likely take as an intentional provocation on Zelensky's part. In his statement, he underlined that Ukraine has no intention of permanently occupying Russian territory. Instead, Ukraine is interested in establishing a buffer zone in order to avoid further attacks on his country. The soldiers of the Ukrainian army experienced a considerable lift in morale as a result of Zelensky's presence. A number of factors, including Zelensky's visit to the front lines, military deployments, and recent deployments within the Ukrainian army, were among the factors that frightened Russia while simultaneously boosting the hopes of Ukrainian soldiers. It is anticipated that 25,000 Ukrainian soldiers have arrived in Kursk Oblast during the past few days. Russia's strategies are being undermined by Ukrainian troops, who are currently engaged in combat at the Kursk boundary and other border lines. It is believed that the Ukrainians have deployed HIMARS long-range missile systems to various sites along the borders of Kursk, Bryansk, and Belgorod. This is in addition to the enormous force that they have deployed. At the same time, the Ukrainians are said to have stationed a substantial number of artillery pieces in the locations where the missile systems are placed. To put it another way, Kiev has exhausted virtually all of its resources in order to maintain its position in the Kursk Oblast and defeat the Russians on its own territory. The Kremlin, on the other hand, has started looking for ways to resolve the military steps that Ukraine has been doing. The Kremlin's most recent plan to block the Ukrainian advance in Kursk was to move a significant number of Russian troops from Kaliningrad to the war zone. This was one of the Kremlin's most recent initiatives. Laurynas Kasčiūnas, the Minister of Defense of Lithuania, was quoted as saying that Russia had shifted troops from Kaliningrad in order to counteract the offensive that Ukraine was launching in the Kursk region. According to Kasčiūnas, the Kaliningrad territory has been demilitarized. as a result of Russia's offensive in the Kursk region. Kaliningrad, which is situated on the western coast of the Baltic Sea between Poland and Lithuania, is the location of Russia's Baltic Fleet and possesses a significant military presence. There have been earlier statements made by Lithuanian officials indicating that Russia occasionally employs tactical nuclear weapons in the neighboring region. There is also a fear among Baltic and NATO commanders regarding Kaliningrad. These commanders are concerned that Russia may utilize its soldiers stationed in the region to seize the so-called Suwalki Pass in the event of an armed conflict. The deployment of tens of thousands of Russian troops to Kursk is a high-risk maneuver being undertaken by Russia. Nevertheless, the Russians have started to transfer more troops from St. Petersburg to Kursk. This is a significant development. According to reports, thousands of Russian soldiers have been moved from St. Petersburg to Kursk on the Russian peninsula. A deliberate escalation in Kiev's military stance is represented by the deployment of 2 additional elite Ukrainian brigades, which brings the total number of Ukrainian personnel stationed in Kursk to 25,000. Ukraine is consolidating its territorial gains while also exerting pressure on the Kremlin, which is compelling the Kremlin to reevaluate the strategic priorities it has set for itself. Through this operation, Ukraine has demonstrated its capacity to successfully defend its own territory while simultaneously successfully attacking Russian territory. This operation demonstrates the shifting power dynamics that are occurring within the conflict. Russia faces a great deal of difficulty on the military front as a result of Ukraine's activities in Kursk. The surprise